like there's, I want to be successful, and then there's, motherfucker, I'm going to be successful. And I was just in that zone.
That was the latter.
And it was just, there was no way. I saw an opportunity. I was going to make everything of it I could. I poured myself into it. I literally gave myself over to it wholly.
Here you are, Quest Nutrition comes out like thunder. We'll talk about the marketing in just a second. Clearly you had supplement or protein or manufacturing background that you were able to grow this thing so quickly with you and your business partners, right?
No, so, I mean, we were consumers, obviously, so I had transformed my own physique, they had transformed their physiques. I was about 60 pounds heavier than I am now, and so we had gone through it at a personal level while we were building a software company. So that was a company that we did before Quest, and in all of that, we thought, well, we know business, and we certainly know from a consumer perspective the protein bar business. We don't know manufacturing at all, never intended to be manufacturers. We went to the manufacturers of protein bars and said, hey, we've got this formulation, we want you to make it for us. And to a person, they were like, your bar can't be made. They're like, we get it, we understand why you're trying to do it, but you have to understand that the equipment has grown up over the last 70 years in conjunction with the use of high fructose corn syrup. So once you take that corn syrup out, even though we were replacing it with something that felt pretty similar, it just changed the dynamics of the machines. And so we went around more than the country. We went to Canada and even farther in some cases looking for equipment, and we just kept breaking their equipment. So couldn't do it, and so we realized, okay, we're gonna have to be our own manufacturers, and we're gonna have to engineer new equipment.
Holy smokes. Okay, so that was the loaded question I wanted to ask us, because most people go, well, if a company's growing that quickly, clearly this guy's got a manufacturing background, but I knew the fact that you guys came from the software space. In fact, the 8 years previous to that, you guys were in software, right? Same business partners?
Yeah.
Same business partners. How do you find good business partners that you can then pivot and go into the nutrition space with?
Well, I got really lucky in that they hired me as an employee, and they said back at the software company, and they were like, look, this is what we tell everybody. We look for partners, we settle for employees. So if you come in and you act like an owner, then we're gonna treat you like an owner. And you've got every opportunity to earn your way through sweat equity into ownership in this company. And so the crazy thing was they made that offer to like everybody that I mean, the number of people that they would like get to know on a personal level and be like, hey, by the way, if you want to come work for us, there's a real opportunity here. And just one by one, they all fell away. And nobody like really poured themselves into it. And I was doing stuff like, when I moved, I wanted to move closer to them, and I timed apartments based on how long it would take me to get to their house, so that if they ever called at like 2 in the morning, now I'm just a copywriter at this point, but however long it would take me to get to their house, like that would determine what apartment we could have. So my wife would find something she liked, and then I would time it. And so when I found one that was 7 minutes or less to both of their houses, I was like, okay, we can go live there.
Holy smokes.
That way, but like there's, I want to be successful, and then there's, motherfucker, I'm going to be successful. And I was just in that zone.
That was the latter.
And it was just, there was no way. I saw an opportunity. I was going to make everything of it I could. I poured myself into it. I literally gave myself over to it wholly.
And what city was this in when you guys were doing the software, and what time?
So this would have been 2003 is when it began, and we were in Marina Del Rey, California.
Marina Del Rey, California. So going 8 years, that takes us right through the economic crash.
Yeah. Oh, that was gnarly.
Okay.
We were at the software company when that happened, had to let go like half of our staff or something crazy. I mean, tears, like the whole thing. It was brutal.
Walk us through that picture. So Tom Bilyeu and his business partners, if I remember correctly, is it 3 business partners?
Total, me included, yeah.
Right? Okay, so 3 of you total come up with this great software. And really, the software was, why don't you explain to our friends? Because it wasn't anything exciting. It wasn't like an app or anything. It was for large companies,
Security
right?
software, yeah.
Security software. And you guys are rocking it until the economy crashes, and then the economy crashes, and it does have an impact on your business because it's, am I right in saying it's mainly businesses using your software at that point?
It wasn't entirely, so we were split. So we had, part of it was aimed at consumers and part of it was aimed at businesses. And I think we might have been better off if we'd been better at selling to corporations, which can weather the storm if they really believe it's business critical.
Gotcha.
But that was where we were least experienced. We understood how to market to people direct online. Like that was our background. So AdWords and stuff like that was how I cut my teeth and came up. And so we were very suited to that, emotionally even, because we were not good at long sales cycles, which of course when you're dealing with big companies and governments, they can be some pretty crazy long cycles.
So I'll get back to you said something magical. You said, hey, my strength at the time was copy. And then you said you cut your teeth on AdWords. That's copy and conversion, two very critical things that all businesses need, traffic and sales, in order to make the machine work and generate lots of profit. But we'll get to that in a moment. So how do you go through this economic crash, you have to cut half of your staff. What does that conversation look like? What does the conversation look like between the three partners? And then what does the decision look like that you have to then go, who do we cut? How do we cut them? Share that.
Yeah, so...
Because the economy is destined to crash soon again.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Winter's coming.
So it was the one thing that has always been true, and I'll definitely speak for myself on this, but one thing that's always been true for me is that it's the people come first. So figuring out like, okay, not only what's their job function, but like, what's this going to be like for them as a transition? Like, is there anything that we can do to help make it more graceful? So we were looking at both of those things, just like who's in dire straits, who's maybe deeper into their career and it's going to be harder for them at that point to transition out.
Sure.
Who's got versatility, who can play multiple roles. So just assessing, like, you do have to protect the business. So you can't just keep people on because you want to make sure that, you know, this doesn't become a brutal time for them. But at the same time, you know, looking at, okay, who can wear multiple hats, so that as we shrink down, who's going to be a versatile player, who makes this a better place to be. So this is one of those things, man, to anybody out there watching right now, I will say it really matters if you are like company plus or company minus. So if you're making it a better culture, if people feel they can trust you, if they feel emotionally safe around you, that's a huge win for the company. If you're the sort of whiny, make excuses, even if you're crushing your sales, man. And that's where you find people where it's like, oh, they're so good at sales that we've kept them probably longer than we should have.
Right.
But in times like that, where you're really having to thin the herd, it can come down sometimes to just, do you make this a better place to be? So we were looking at just job function critical. Are they making this a better place to be? And then, you know, the sad reality, how much do they cost? And some people, depending on where they are at that part of their career, they may be really expensive. And there's certainly a vulnerability in that in hard times.
Sure. But one thing you did say that I want everyone watching and listening to this to take note is that, can they wear multiple hats? How do they level up the culture, the morale in the organization?
Sure.
Even if they're heavy closers, if you're not generating great value, culture, morale, in times like that, you may be cut.
For sure.
Right? And I always talk about that you and I, we're entrepreneurs, and our employees, who are what I consider team members, they're intrapreneurs. And like whatever department you're in, that's your entrepreneurial sphere. Like you'll always take the greatest risks where impact theory is concerned, right? Your most recent passion, I guess now the comics, as you're launching your comic brand. But the intrapreneurs within, your employees, must know how to move the needle, not only the money needle, but the morale needle as well. So that's a great lesson there. Thanks for sharing that. So going back to, now we're going backwards in 2003, you're married to Lisa.
Yes.
And we got to go on a double date. We had such a great time with you guys, and she's just a ball of energy. I love her. How did you two meet? Because it's a pretty unique relationship that you guys have.
How did we meet? Well, at the time I was a teacher, and she was my student, and it was a school for adults. I do feel compelled to mention that. But yeah, she was my student, and really hit it off, and I had a pretty easy way to take her out, and I could pass it off as it was all business if it didn't go well.
Sure.
Which was one of my friends who also was associated with the school was screening his film. I said, hey, why don't you come to the screening with me? And it was just electricity right from the jump. And yeah, she refused to sleep with me, and so that extended the the thing. Good on her. I was traumatized at the time, but ended up being like just amazing. And so we really got to know each other super fast, and it was awesome.
And you don't hide the fact at all that she has like literally been there through the growing pains, through the adversity, through the dark times, and as you guys enjoy the great times now.
Yeah. And I will tell you, that is one of the most amazing things. And I tell people all the time, look, your significant other is going to turn into a bag of wrinkles. It's just the way of life. But nothing, and I mean nothing, is more amazing than a shared history. And so sharing that experience and coming up together, and her proving, like, it's so funny now because she gets accused of being a gold digger, which is hilarious.
Right.
Because she married me when I was dirt poor, and made her clip coupons, the whole nine. I mean, it was, some lean times. So for her to literally help build the empire with her own hands, and to now she has to laugh when people are like, "You're just in it for the money."
And in that way, we have so many similarities. My wife and I, when we got married, I was $86,000 in debt. And we were stealing the neighbors, literally the month that we got married, we were stealing the neighbor's penny saver because every penny saver had a coupon in there for a foot-long sub sandwich. You buy 1 foot long, you get a second one free.
Nice.
And so we were stealing all the neighbors' coupons and using them because they weren't going to use them. They're sitting on their driveway for days. So that was, I can relate to that. But you're a school teacher, but why don't you tell us what you're teaching? Because that kind of leads to the copywriting, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I was teaching filmmaking, which is my background. So I went to film school and thought that was going to be it. That was my path. And unfortunately, a very bad mindset led to that not working out, at least not out of the gate. And so she went to film school in London and didn't feel she had learned the practical side of filmmaking enough. And that's what I was teaching.
Gotcha. Did you write scripts?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
So wrote some scripts, won some awards. Actually had one script turned into a feature film, which was a heartbreaking experience.
Sure.
It was starring Michael Madsen, and I thought, this is it, man.
It's a winner.
Like, I made it. And I just wasn't happy with how the film came out at all. And so that was actually my partners. Their whole thing was, you're coming to the industry with your hand out. That was their pitch to me when they brought me on to be a copywriter. They said, you're coming to the world with your hand out. If you want to control the art, you have to control the resources. So why don't you come with us? We need a copywriter, but don't think of yourself as a copywriter. You've got a chance to really get ownership in the company and get rich, and then you can build your own studio. I thought, that's amazing. And they said, we think it'll take about 18 months. So it took 15 years, but it did work.
Did you lose hope then? Because 18 months and 15 years, that's a big disparity.
No. Being in the middle of it and really seeing what was going on and beginning to understand the reality for myself, one, that they were sincere, they really did think it would take 18 months, so they weren't BSing me. We were just all wrong. And then I was so in the middle of it. It really did always feel like, this is close. And then my thing is, I will give myself credit. I've always bet on myself. And so I thought, I can make this happen. Like, I can see where this goes. And then once I finally found the missing piece, which was to really love what I do and to believe in it, then everything changed. And then, of course, the wealth did come. But it was an incredible journey that has now set me up to actually do film for real.